Alicia Hughes from bloodhorse.com, BloodHorse Magazine. Follow her on Twitter at BH_A Hughes. Alicia, how are things going tonight? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me on. Things are going pretty well in the fact that it is, right now, as of this minute, it is not raining, which is something that which is something that's pretty much done here nonstop since we arrived.
You warned us about this, Alicia, when we talked with you a couple weeks ago prior to the Derby. You said it actually rains more than you think, and that seems to be the trend. It's almost like following you guys to Baltimore for this weekend's race.
It's been pretty nasty out, and it's not been like it's been on, off, and drying out. It's been a pretty consistent rain since about Tuesday night on, and, really hasn't been any appearance from the sun. So there's, it's not like this track is going to get a chance to dry out. Tomorrow looks like it's going to be a complete deluge washout. Saturday's looking ugly. So the safest bet for this Preakness is it's going to be an off track.
Wow. And Alicia, I got a question is, how is Justify looking right now? He's the favorite to win, but does he, if it rains, is there a big chance that these other horses can upset him?
I mean, considering, obviously his Derby, in the Derby, which was the wettest Derby, I think on record, we got like over 3 inches of rain that day. He certainly handled the wet track on Derby without issue. He's also won over a wet track in Santa Anita in his second career start. So, as Bob Baffert said this morning, this is a horse who takes this track with him. I don't think surface condition matters. Now, how the Pimlico track plays compared to how the Churchill track plays when it's wet is two different stories, though. The Churchill base, Bob Baffert said, is a little bit of a harder base, whereas this one's a little bit softer. So it's not going to be a direct line comparison of, well, how he ran over Churchill is going to be how he runs here. But I think this horse is just, he saw him this morning. He looks in fantastic flesh. Looks like he hasn't lost a single ounce since the Derby win. He got over the track. He had a nice easy gallop this morning. He seemed pretty unfazed by everything. If he gets beat, it's not going to be because of the track surface.
How's it been having John Service back at the Preakness for the first time in 14 years? He brings Diamond King there. It's a little bit different than the last time he was there back in 2004 with Smarty Jones. It seems to be a lot of talk about him there this week. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, actually, and the horse only arrived yesterday, I believe, so he actually had his first trip over the track this morning. And it's interesting you mentioned John, because my coworker Jeremy Balin just wrote a feature about him this day, talking about that very thing of, obviously back in 2004 with Smarty Jones, this was the man who was pretty much in the eye of the media storm, where he had throngs of reporters coming up to him every day. He had the darling contender there with Smarty, and needless to say, a little bit different this time around. He doesn't, Diamond King, he's the winner of the Testio Stakes, but he's pretty much this horse is a long shot, and John would certainly agree with that. I think his original plan was he actually wanted to maybe look to go to the Peter Pan with him, but after he and the owners conferred, they kind of wanted to go ahead and take the swing here. I said, John's a great guy, great operation, always fun to have him here, but he is very realistic in his expectations for this weekend.
Alicia, which horse is going to give Justified a run for his money this upcoming week? You're looking at that will surprise a lot of people.
I still think that, it wouldn't be a surprise, but I still think Good Magic is the horse best on form, who has a chance to pull off the win over Justify this weekend. The race he ran in the Derby probably would have won most editions of the Derby. He ran a fantastic effort. He sat in that first fight just off those early fractions. And if you look at it, the only horses who were up on that pace who didn't completely back out of it in the Derby were Justify and Good Magic. All those other horses who were up close early backed well out of it. With the shorter distance, a mile and 3:16, that's probably going to be in his favor. Chad Brown has already said he's not going to take the horse to the Belmont. He doesn't think he's a mile and a half horse. So, if he keeps handling, if he can handle the surface, and if he can maybe, catch a few breaks his way with racing luck and some circumstance on form, he is still the best. He is still the horse with the best chance to beat Justify.
BloodHorse.com's Alicia Hughes joining us on Behind the Mic. The Preakness is typically the event in which the Kentucky Derby winner, if they're worth their salt, they almost double down what they did 2 weeks prior. Do we see that in Justify? I know Bob Baffert has been very encouraged by his horse, and I think sometimes trainers want to make sure they don't kind of trip over their own words and favor horses just because, they're prisoners of the moment and they just happen to see a great race. But Baffert seems to really think that he doesn't want to get ahead of himself and think that he's in the same realm as an American Pharaoh, but he thinks he could be on a similar path. Do you see that just by being at the track this week and seeing some of these horses and maybe comparing and contrasting to Justify? Could he possibly follow a similar path to what we've seen over the last couple of years with horses like American Pharaoh?
Yeah, and Bob, it appears mentioned, Bob and D-Wayne Lucas have to mention him as well. They are so great at this 2-week turnaround in this race. They each have 6 wins here. And, where a lot of trainers really kind of fear, wheeling back in 2 weeks, Bob Baffert and D-Wayne Lucas, they really seem to embrace it. And they've got this down to a system of, and with Bob especially, he's never lost the Preakness when he's come in with the Derby winner. All 4 of his previous Derby winners have won their Preakness races. And, he says that he comes in here, if you've got him, if you've got the best horse in Derby, you read it and you bring him in here, they're probably peaking, they're probably out on the right form cycle, they're probably going to hold their form in this one. It's the Belmont where it would theoretically kind of catch up to him. And with Justify, he's obviously a different horse than American Pharaoh, and we can't throw him in that breath yet. But the way he moves, that effortless style, the same mechanics that they both have, with Justify, he's a big horse, but he's very light on his feet. He doesn't, he glides over a track. He's very efficient in the way he moves. He's got those same effortless type of mechanics that an American Pharaoh had. And I think that's, what's giving Bob so much confidence in this horse that, he's already mentioning him up there with Pharaoh, with Arrogate, as some of the great horses that he's ever trained.
Better food, Churchill Downs or Pimlico?
Pimlico.
Okay. You only hear about the mint juleps, I think, for the most part with the Derby, and you actually don't hear too much about food.
Why?
We see a lot of times like Bobby Flay, right, and celebrity chefs cooking up food, but they don't talk too much about it on the TV broadcast. It's interesting.
Alicia, why is that?
Now, all those people eating that food on Derby Day, the fancy food, they might have the best food.
Okay.
I'm just judging off of what they're wheeling us in the press box. And actually, I need to give Churchill credit. They actually had very good press box food this year. But, I said, I don't know what they're getting up in Millionaires Row. It is a mansion. It's probably top-notch stuff. But they do treat us very, very well here in Baltimore.
What's the morning headline, Alicia, come Sunday? What will the headlines be following this 143rd running of the Preakness?
Get ready, because we're going to have another Triple Crown on the line. I think that's going to be the headline. And the thing is, if you look back at the history of the Triple Crowns, obviously when Pharaoh won, he was the streak buster. He's first one in 37 years. When going back to when Secretariat won, his was the first one since Citation in 48. He was a streak buster himself, and then they kind of came in bunches in the 70s with Secretariat, Saddle Spoon, Affirm. There might be something similar at play there. Whereas now that Pharaoh's broken the seal, they might quote unquote start coming sooner rather than later. But if Justify is Justify, if he runs his race, if he holds his form, he should be the winner on Saturday.
Alicia Hughes, BloodHorse Magazine, bloodhorse.com. Once again, follow her at BH_A Hughes on Twitter. Alicia, always a pleasure. Thanks for your time.
Thanks again. You guys have a good one.